Hello, everyone. Before we start the podcast, I'd like to mention Pro Political Gear. Check out propoliticalgear.com for your political apparel today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the March 22nd, 2023 edition of Pro Political Pod. And we have some news in store for you, so let's get right into it.
Let me be clear.
You peddle false narratives.
Sexy boo.
We'll see who cancels who.
Watch me.
I am your host, Chris Caputo. Alongside me, my co-host, Andrew Kornick. And today, we got some news. We got some news. And I think we could start it off with the indictment. This is what everyone really wants to know about, right? Everyone wants to be talking about this because Trump posted on his social media account, on Truth Social, that he was going to get arrested on Tuesday. Now, I know a lot about this because I was going to the city on Tuesday. And as I like to do my recordings. I like to document certain events. And that was going to be one of them. But apparently, it was too many reporters for the amount of protesters that were there. So, the ratio was, wouldn't have been good for me. There would have been no one to really report on or to interview. So, it's okay. I went back home right away once I found out that he wasn't going to be arrested because there's really no one there protesting, which is kind of crazy. So, we're left with that. And why is he getting arrested? Well, the Stormy Daniels trial, or the court case, whatever you want to call this thing. I mean, this, I don't even know. Oh, look, I'll put it this way. I don't think he's getting arrested. Like, he said he was getting arrested on Tuesday. If he didn't get arrested on Tuesday, I don't foresee him getting arrested, but that could come back and bite me in the ass by the time tomorrow comes. But I think they're going to do this next week. I don't think that they're going to, I don't think they're going to work on it anytime this week because I think they called another witness, so it's going to take longer. I don't even think he's in New York. He's in Mar-a-Lago still, so he's enjoying this time right now. And we're going to get into why he's enjoying his time in a little bit. Just to break down a little bit of it, Stormy Daniels, met with him on the Apprentice at a celebrity golf tournament. Right? They met in 2006 in July. She was invited to dinner. They met in a hotel suite. And, well, they had sex right after Melania just gave birth to Barron. So he had an affair, okay? And, I mean, nothing special, nothing really against the law, right? I mean, I don't see anything against the law. Nothing's against the law. He is 60 and she was 27 at the time, but you know how it is. You got money, you're rich, you can get whoever you want. So he was with Stormy Daniels, and I don't think they had sex any time after that. I think that was it. There was a one and done. But long story short, and they met throughout, the next year, and they were talking because he was trying to get her on the Celebrity Apprentice and all this other stuff. But really, what you gotta know here is that, and I believe it was campaign money. I think you can back me up on this one, Andrew. I think you know. Campaign money was used to silence her and to pay her off as hush money, saying, "Oh no, this didn't happen, this and that." But
essentially, like, and this was in October 2016, so around the time when the Access Hollywood, Grab 'Em by the Pussy tape came out. Trump's legal team wanted to basically try to cover up any more potential mishaps that might leak to the media. So they negotiated a deal of $130,000 in hush money. And that's really what the case is about. That's kind of what makes this like a criminal case and not just like a random celebrity affair. Is, he used money he raised for his campaign to try to silence this person.
And that's really it. That's all there is to it. Does he belong in jail for this? Me personally, over what it's about, no. I mean, if you really want to,
so.
Yeah, you think so on this court case specifically?
Yeah, I do actually. Obviously, it's not the worst thing Trump has done. Like, you can definitely find plenty of much worse things he's done, both in terms of just, you know, government-wise, like how he ran the government, and then just also in terms of legality, you know? You can say he incited violence, you can say he's done all these corrupt things. In terms of Saudi Arabia, there's a lot of blatant corruption that's illegal that he's done. You know, tax fraud that he's done over many years, worker related. Like, there's so much worse stuff he's done. So I get saying, hey, this isn't the worst thing he's done, but at the same time, I think in terms, because something that's really important for me is corruption in campaign and finance and violations and things like that. And as it stands now, I mean, there's so few cases in terms of campaign corruption and campaign finance stuff that really gets charged. And oftentimes, when they do like try to pursue these cases, the courts that have been put in by a lot of these like federalist conservative types, like they tend to be on the side of having more corruption, having more, like Citizens United is a good example of that. Recently, Ted Cruz had a case of corruption, and they basically were like, yeah, I mean, if you're rich, you can pay your own campaigns and do whatever you want, essentially. So for there to be a case of, campaign violation that actually gets tried and he gets put into trouble for it, that'd be great, in my opinion.
I mean, the reason why I disagree, and it's back to what you're saying, is that you understand that he has done, probably worse stuff than this. And that's exactly it. I mean, you look at the stuff that happened with past presidents and the things that they've done when they're in office, and you look at what Trump did, and you go after him over this. Like, I don't think it's worthy. Out of if you can't go to jail over a war crime, then you're gonna, you know what I mean?
I
like,
think it's a pretty consistent issue, I think, that people have with prosecuting, particularly like when another corrupt individual goes after Trump. You see this with the impeachments as well, where like they'll go after him on stuff that it's stuff that only he could really do because he's such like a crazy, crass kind of guy. The original impeachment was over, like the 2018, I think, one was over. He was, on a phone call with Zelensky when he first got elected in Ukraine, and was like, hey, we might not send you as much aid if you, we'll send you more aid actually if you can find this corruption with Biden's son and all this stuff. Like, that's something that like only Trump could really do. Like, it's so like stupid. Like, this guy gets elected and your first thing is, yeah, I'm gonna find dirt on my political enemies. So, and even the second impeachment was over Jan 6, which is something that obviously like only people of his ilk could really do. And you see that a lot with these more kind of institutional types who critique Trump, where it's like they see they look at the war crimes and stuff that he commits, some of them at least, and they'll be like, oh well, he's working within the system, but those are the better things he's done, you know. But on the whole, I mean, in this particular case, I do think it is something that's kind of unique to him, but I think you can kind of weed it out as something that's worth prosecuting him over. I mean, is it politically motivated?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
But I don't like when people say politically motivated and they're like, oh, this means it's illegitimate, because I mean, isn't every court case politically motivated?
Oh, absolutely.
It's kind of like and you're talking about a political leader, so obviously no matter what, it's going to be politically motivated. I think you got to go after it on the merits. I think the merits are strong enough for some kind of prosecution. Absolutely.
But like, and here again,
if you want, if you want to hit him on everything, hit him on everything. I support that. Charge him on like as many, and there are all these ongoing cases too. So it's not like this is it.
But this seems to be the quote unquote the one. You know what I mean?
Well, I think another aspect too is, I mean, this has been an ongoing case since like 2016, 2018, around that time frame. So it's been a while. A lot of these cases have been a while too. So yeah, they're gonna come out. I'm sure more of these cases will be more further developed in the next coming years, where he'll get like prosecuted, or they'll end, and maybe he won't get prosecuted in some of these cases.
I mean, I don't see him getting arrested, put it this way: I don't see him getting arrested, and I don't see him getting arrested just
Well,
for the pure
it's not
fact
gonna
of.
be like what people think when they hear. It's not, because there was like AI images going around yesterday of like the police chasing him and all like jumping. Like it's not gonna be like that. It's gonna be very procedural. It's gonna be very low key. Because I mean, even like, we have like Democrat like in office, in power. I think even they don't want to see Trump arrested for a couple of reasons. At least at like the very top. For one, it's like I think they kind of know the backlash that would cause, and
Of
it's a very
course.
bad reflection on them to have that. No matter how legitimate the case is, people are gonna like take that as political prosecution and think the worst things. And on top of that too, I mean, I think going back to the whole like institutionalist mindset, I feel like a lot of these guys don't like that there's this guy who kind of makes this whole system look like a joke. 'Cause that's kind of the best thing about Trump, right? He's just kind of like just him being there. He's wrong on like basically everything, like most of the time, as far as what he's done. But the fact he was able to do what he did kind of exposes all these problems and shows like, yeah, we should be doing a lot better than we are.
I mean, yeah, I think there's some people that want to see him prosecuted more than others, and some
I'm
don't
sure
want to
there
see
are,
it at
yeah, I'm sure there are,
all.
but I feel like there is like a pretty potent mindset, especially among more, like more older people. But at the same time, I guess that mindset can go in the other way where it's like, oh my god, this guy's such a disgrace. Like he needs to, pay for what he's done and all that stuff. So I guess it can
The
go both ways,
Look,
definitely.
I'll put it this way: the people that want to see him locked up are just liberals, like liberals who just want to see him locked up. That's really it. They just want to make sure that their orange jumpsuit meme uh they could tweet it and be like, "Oh look, guys, it's real." That's it. That's all
I
they're
don't
there
think we're gonna
for.
get the mugshot, as
You
funny as it would
know,
be.
right? Like, but besides that, I think a lot of people look at it and say, I don't think it's worth it, or there's other things to go after him over. I think a lot of people think that way. And to put it this way, I mean, you can look at it two different ways, right? But there
But just
wasn't.
looking at how court cases work, though, it's not like
I'll put it this way.
they're gonna have like the people working on this case drop it and then join like the people working on the other cases all join together and do one
Yeah,
like that's not how that works. Like they're gonna all focus on these different like legal issues, like
of course. But I feel like if no one was really there to protest or the whole Trump thing with him being arrested, I think that's also a sign. You could take it two ways. You could take it one way. It's like, oh, he's dropping, or you could take it that no one believes that he's gonna get arrested.
there's like I
So
mean there's actually a lot of ways you can kind of approach
I
that.
mean,
For
I don't know any other approaches right now. I mean, you could probably state some, but
I was gonna say, I mean, I think given what happened with January 6th in terms of the narrative of like, oh, this was like an inside job and they're trying to lock up their political enemies. I was reading an article actually about like that, and there are actually some people in the Trump camp who feel like he's not doing enough for the people who were arrested, and they kind of are feel kind of swindled that they want he wants them to protest for him being arrested, but he's not calling for protests for the people that are already arrested. So in a weird way, there is kind of like this. It's like some of that. It's not. I'm sure it's not like a huge thing. It's probably like a couple people. But I think the bigger thing that came as a result of that is just the idea that since this was like in their head, this is like not really a legitimate thing that happened. That this is just they want to prosecute political enemies. That them seeing like the media talk about like the possibility of Trump people going up to do these crazy protests. They see that and they're like, okay, well this in their mind they think it's like a trap, and they see like the NYPD setting up, so they're like, okay, I'm not even gonna bother. Like they're clearly like just gonna arrest me on the spot and do all this crazy stuff. I think that's a pretty big thing as well. Now, if he
yeah, it
actually
could
got
be.
arrested, I'm sure a lot of them would have came out anyways because they would have,
I think if he got arrested, they would have came
But
out. They would have came out of the woodworks and like
but I
they
think
would have
like
came
if
out.
I
Yeah.
think if Jan 6 didn't pan out the way it did, I think there would be more people just willing to just go out for the sake of it to like kind of No.
That's also another angle to look at it from. That I
do
actually
think
didn't
that's
think of.
pretty persistent, yeah.
But again, I still don't think he's gonna get arrested. I don't think it's really, out of all things to go after, I don't think it's worth it. There's definitely other politicians who deserve to be in jail, and are not. And it's like, you're gonna put Trump in jail for what?
There's a lot of reasons.
Okay, but I'm talking about this one. I'm not talking about the other cases. I'm talking about this specific case.
Yeah.
You're gonna.
I've already laid out why I think it's just to prosecute him over
hush money from an affair. That's what it is. That's all it is. Now, I agree. It's like, okay, the news, to hush money, so then the news doesn't report the affair during the presidential cycle. Yeah, okay, I understand how that could be a problem, or just mostly just like giving hush money.
I mean, I don't.
But because of what it was, it wasn't like anything political. If it was something political that we found out later on, that could be a problem. But him having an affair, it has no effect on anyone's lives but maybe him and his wife's. And
it has
his
a pretty
kids.
big effect. I mean, a lot of people vote on stuff like that. You can't act like they don't. Like, I mean, not enough. I mean, he won after the Access Hollywood, but it still would have affected stuff.
No, well, I don't think it would have.
I mean, like, I'll put it this way, like, if there was like proof that that like the Biden campaign like tried to send like themselves, not like outside people, were trying to like cover up like the Hunter Biden laptop thing, and they got prosecuted for that, I'd probably agree with that too. Because it's like just purely for like the corruption angle. I mean, I guess it's not like a interpersonal thing, so it's kind of different, but my point basically is just I don't think that having like, just because it's not like, explicitly like about a specific policy or about like him being hypocritical in some way, he's still like using his campaign money in kind of a dishonest way to make himself look better.
That's
And
true.
there's so many, and I mean, on top of that too, I mean, with like affairs and with there's also like a Me Too angle to it too,
But
that we're probably not getting into as much.
But it's like, how is it that he could go in jail for this and no one could go to jail? Like, Bush can't go to jail for sending us into a war, where they said there was weapons of mass destruction.
If people want to.
But I know, but I'm saying, but it's like, it's crazy. It's like he's getting in trouble for being with a woman, basically, which I know.
Well, he's getting in trouble for the hush money. It's not for the woman.
I
like,
understand that, but
if his lawyer didn't do anything and he didn't okay anything, like, it would just be another stupid thing Trump did that some people get mad about, most people wouldn't care about.
Yeah.
But because this happens, like, he's getting sued for it, might go to jail, but like the jail part's so unlikely. To the extent it's like anything crazy.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, I don't think he's going to jail. And if I could say, the people that have been surveyed specifically, I have a poll here from 538. This is a poll from March 16th to the 21st. So the court case was going on, and it's making headlines, so people know what's going on. And
I think he made the post on Friday, so that would have been like about halfway through the.
Yeah. So here's the poll that we have right now, okay? We have Trump at 58%. He went up in his polls since this court case. DeSantis went down to 22%. Then we have the people who really have a shot at being president. We got Pence at 5%. We got Nikki Haley, a real winner, at 5%. We got Cruz, who is about to make it into the White House, at 5%. And Cheney, she's going to make it to the White House at 2%. And Tim Scott, that's a real winner, at 1%. So all those winners are scoring low, but, hey, look, if DeSantis don't run, somebody's got to take those numbers, right?
Do you know how many people were and where it was conducted, or?
There was that like I got it right here. 758 people, I think it said.
And like, was it just across the country or in a specific area?
I don't know exactly.
Okay.
Let's see.
Yeah, I think this particular poll is a bit of an outlier because it's like he has almost 60%
I mean, there's
of it.
there.
That's a bit high. Like, but in
Oh yeah.
general, his numbers have gone up.
Oh yeah, no.
Getting
I mean, other
closer.
polls. Yeah.
Right now, it's kind of like I think he'll hover usually like 35 to 40% of it, which makes sense because I think he probably has about 30% or so of the country that is basically ride or die with him.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
that kind of
mean,
makes sense. But at the same time, like I think really what to look out for is when polls start having him close to 50%, because like if he averages out at close to 50, then this thing is like kind of game set match. Like no way any of these guys beat him.
but again, I mean, you look at the polls now, but let's look at what's going to happen later on. Let's look at the debate stage now. The debate stage is Trump's domain. We know this. 2020 was just not his year. I mean, that's all anyone can say. 2020 was just not his year because he wasn't pulling up as well on the debate stage as well. But in 2016, in
I
the
mean, he was actually president.
primaries, yeah, but in the primaries where he's the underdog, even though he's like the leader, but still, as we talked about before we were recording, is he's still kind of an underdog, right? So
I think he's an underdog in the general. I think he's a massive favorite in the primary.
yeah, so in the primary, he's probably gonna sweep. If DeSantis doesn't enter, he sweeps, and I mean, it would be really. I mean, you look at what's happening with
At this point,
DeSantis.
even
I
if
mean,
DeSantis enters, he's gonna sweep it.
you think he's gonna sweep him?
I mean, just with how the trajectory is going, especially because with these court, like unless Trump literally gets like thrown in jail and can't run straight up, like I think all of this indictment talk is going to help Trump among his like support, because they're going to feel vindicated and like, oh man, we have to get behind this guy and stop them.
Mm-hmm.
Even with this, I mean, since Trump does live in Florida too, I feel like anytime DeSantis doesn't do something, it puts him in a position where he looks like he's complicit at worst, helping them at best. Especially when you consider too that DeSantis, like Trump's kind of painting DeSantis like an establishment figure. So him doing that kind of gets emboldened by DeSantis's lack of ability to really intervene with these cases with Trump, who is a resident of his state.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just gonna create a scenario now where the base is kind of gonna get behind their guy, and anything else is gonna become more and more like repellent, I guess. And on top of that too, I mean, there's also like 5 other people running who are occupying like the not Trump spot. So like if you if you are more establishment, or you're more for winning, maybe you like Nikki Haley more, maybe you like Cruz more. If you're more religious, maybe you like Pence more. And them just being there is gonna like split it even more. I think DeSantis' best shot is running head to head with Trump, and he gets like
Do you
like
think
46 to 44 or something like that.
Do you think that there could be a situation where people pull out of the election, and instead of like in the Democratic Party, they pull out in support of Biden instead of support of
There was a
Bernie,
point where
right?
I thought that was like pretty likely, and I thought that's what they were gonna do. But looking at how they react to things in regards to Trump, I don't know if they really have it in them. I thought they were getting more to that point for a while, but seeing like how the lack of like real because there really isn't a message against Trump on the Republican side. They're very complicit in everything he does. You know what I mean? So it's like anytime there's a scandal with him, they'll like kind of play with either go with it but be very like kind to him, or they'll just pretend, oh, he's like completely right. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like actually, we were talking about Ukraine before, right before the show, And I said that we were talking about like how, they all have like their positions on Ukraine and stuff like that. And like there's like kind of the Trump position, which is like we need to pull out of NATO basically and negotiate peace, and we need to stop this war right now. And then there's like the Haley Pence position, which is like we need to continue supporting Ukraine, give them more of what they want. Putin's like this and that. And DeSantis tried to like break the difference between those positions, which ironically is essentially what Biden's doing, right? Like that's just like he's essentially just trying not to go too far, but wants to support them, the Ukraine still.
Well, I think it's better if DeSantis doesn't say anything right now.
Yeah, I mean, because he knows that like there is this growing base on the right that's kind of like anti-Ukraine essentially. But what happened was, the Haley types and basically all those people on that side attacked DeSantis for it and just kind of expect like, yeah, like don't even really acknowledge that Trump is more kind of in that direction than he is.
Mhm.
So I think what's going to happen is honestly the opposite. I think they're just like, I don't think they're going to endorse anyone. I think they're just going to like kind of like drop out, and then whoever ends up winning, they're just going to support them because they care more about the power in themselves than trying to stop him, which ironically is going to fuck them over anyways, because once you get to a general, this guy lost like, and his candidates lost like the last 3 elections.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's interesting because the Republican primary, which given like I support Bernie and stuff like that, as you can see.
well,
It almost
actually,
kind of
really,
sucks thinking about it because it's like Democrat voters, they care so much if your candidate is considered electable by like the media outlets and stuff like that.
I can't
Where it's
actually
like,
see the full-on Bernie sign. He said,
where
as
it's
you
like,
can see, can't even see the sign, but it's that
I mean,
little
you
white
can
thing
make it
above.
out. Yeah,
No,
if
not
you're
really,
listening, you
actually.
can't see it too well.
Yeah, no,
But
sorry.
but yeah, I supported him. But the Democrats voters, I mean, they care so much about being electable, whereas the Republican voters, they don't care. I mean, they're wrong on like on what they view as kind of like being like genuine and stuff like that. I think they're completely wrong, but they still will vote for what they think is the genuine guy. And they don't really care about electability like that.
Mm.
And even like, and yeah, even like their other candidates and stuff kind of just don't care about what's considered electable if it'll help them in the short term. So
Yeah,
I don't know. Do you think what do you think is the path to someone that's not Trump being like their nominee? Do you think
easy,
there is one?
DeSantis.
Well, I'm saying like, how do you think that happens?
What do you mean? Like, okay. So, like, I'm really creating my own story right now, I guess. Or I just like have to create a scenario in my head, thinking, how can
I mean,
how can
yeah, like,
DeSantis,
because there's like what's realistic. I mean, it's kind
yeah,
of, cause it's like, especially just based on what I'm seeing, like what I think is realistic.
I think if DeSantis goes on the path that he's going on now, I think he's entering troubled waters, but he's been really good right now because when we look on, there was an interview with somebody on Fox. I forgot who it was. He was playing ball with him, right? And I think he
Mm-hmm.
sat him down. I think it was that one, or maybe I don't know if it was that one or it was a different one. But anyway, uh, he was on Fox, I think it was, and they asked him a question. They said, "What do you think about your nicknames from Trump? Meatball Ron, he didn't mention Tiny D. Sorry, Andrew. I know that's your favorite one. Then Ron De Sanctimonious, De Sanctus, and DeSantis goes, "Oh, I find him funny. I like this sanctimonious. I don't even know what it means, but it sounds funny." And he goes, "I don't care what anyone calls me as long as they understand they're gonna call me winner." So bold statement. I mean, what he means by that, it could be a 2024 run, or he could possibly he could play it this way. He could play the card of I'm here for Floridians, and then he runs in 28. That could really be what you would call a genuine candidate, a genuine looking candidate. Says he's out to help the people of a specific place, and then once Trump is out of the news, he doesn't run anymore, then he gets to go, because now it's like, well, we have so much time, all right, even if it doesn't feel like it, so much time till 2028, and you can see all the new candidates that come out and all this other stuff, but DeSantis is really set as like a superstar. He's a Republican superstar. Like, this guy's track record in Florida, if you're a Democrat, and you lean more moderately, maybe you go for DeSantis. If you're like,
well, what about DeSantis is moderate? Because he's pretty extreme, I would say.
He's pretty extreme, but he also doesn't have the I guess the roughness of Trump, if that makes sense.
But I feel like that's
Trump,
boring. I think that doesn't help him at all.
Yeah, but a lot of people, you can say it's boring, but I mean,
I think we're kind of past the era of like clean-cut, normal-looking politicians.
Really? I mean, I mean, you could be right. I mean, Biden's hilarious, but that's just because he's old.
He doesn't even really fit into that category too well.
No, he's
always been kind of out there. Like he's even before he kind of got really old. Like he's always had gaps and stuff like that.
But not as much. Definitely not as much, because you look at his old stuff and it's like, wow.
I mean, he was definitely sharper, but he would still just say something that's like, why?
Yeah, but now it's totally different. He's getting old. He doesn't deserve to be in the White House right now. He deserves to be being taken care of. He doesn't belong in the White House.
It's our most voted for candidate in history.
It's crazy, but I mean that number should only increase.
To the point though, it's I don't know. I kind of agree with his calculation to run now. I think it's more likely he runs now in general, but I agree with his DeSantis. Yeah. I agree with his mindset, because it's like he got really prominent in 2020/21 because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
He's been kind of, playing along with the right-wing basis, cultural demands and stuff like that. And he's getting very popular as a result of it. So I think he should run now, because this is kind of his peak, I think, and I think from here it's gonna go downhill.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
Like in 2028, it's like, okay, like 3 other people like him could just prop up and become more relevant, or there could be new issues that come up that make them more appealing. It's kind of like a tough thing. It's like, okay, well, like his best scenario really is if Trump just won in 2020, because then he could have just been like the
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. He honestly it would have been so much better. Or, I mean, if Trump gets arrested, I'm just saying DeSantis is a happy man. He is walking his way to the White House. Because, to be honest with you, I think if it's DeSantis versus Biden, I think DeSantis wins.
Yeah.
And, I honestly think DeSantis wins over Biden. Because Biden's not getting any younger.
I don't think so.
I'll put it this way. DeSantis, I mean, you look at DeSantis, right? Decent looking guy, right? Good looking guy. He's young. He has stuff that he's done in Florida. It gets a good rep.
But what's...
And it's like...
And this is the thing that's going to get me, though. He's not like... What does he have that appeals to moderates? Because I hear people say this, but I'm just like, what about him is moderate?
His personality isn't as... Like I said, it isn't as
like,
rough around the edges as like a Trump.
If it's
people don't like
Trump personality, like...
It's
boring. It's fucking boring. Like, he's nothing to him.
It's boring, but I think that's what people are okay with. Moderate Democrats are okay with being boring. That's why they're a moderate Democrat.
Well, why would a moderate Democrat vote for Ron DeSantis over Joe Biden?
Well, there's a few things you could go after and say, well, I don't like the way the economy is, inflation, all this other stuff. And, regardless on... you could look into the news and you could read your article.
I'm saying actually this number that's gonna make them like.
But a person who just lives their life.
Especially when you look at it too. I mean, like in 2022, the midterms, Democrats increased their shares in the Midwest for the first time in like our lifetime. We're pretty young people,
Yeah, but also
so it's
look
like
at the
those, and that was a
candidates.
key demographic that made Hillary Clinton lose in 2016, and the Democrats gained in the midterm.
But you have to
Like,
look at the candidates.
how is DeSantis gonna like cut into that?
Because you look at the candidates from the midterm of 2022, and you look at the campaigns they ran. You look at the advertisements they ran. It looked like parody type stuff. It was crazy, and even people said that. And a matter of fact, I know that because the Democrats, as you know, helped funded some of these MAGA-like Republicans because they said, "Oh, well, they're most likely gonna lose."
That's the thing. They're MAGA-like. They're extreme. How is DeSantis not those things?
Because
if they can point at those candidates and be like, "Look how extreme they are," they can do this like same thing with DeSantis.
Because one, he's calmer, and two, he doesn't run advertisements that look like they're a parody. Look at the commercials. You know this. You've seen the commercials, man.
I mean,
you've seen all this stuff.
DeSantis would, at best, he'd be like a more competent version of, I guess, Dr. Oz, essentially.
Okay, and Dr. Oz was close.
And you know who he was close to?
Yeah, I mean, look.
But
right?
You know what I mean? Like, it would be similar, I think. That's probably the most similar race.
I would not compare him to Dr. Oz, because Dr. Oz did not rally. He has nothing behind him besides the fact that he had a TV show. He has nothing. If anything, he has a lot of negatives behind him too.
He has a lot of name recognition.
He has name recognition. Don't get me wrong, but he also, his magic pill or whatever it was to make you lose weight. I mean, that lawsuit is pretty big, so people know about that.
There's controversies with the.
And also, let's look at this. He doesn't know Pennsylvania. You can't compare a guy. Yeah, they're incomparable. They really are, because Dr. Oz, he talked about how he went to Wegner's. He calls it, right?
Well, I just used him because he's not as like absurd. He's not as extreme. Like,
you look at the things he says, though. He doesn't.
And find those problems with DeSantis too.
But he doesn't relate. He doesn't relate to anybody. You see, and that was an example right there. You know, you look at
DeSantis really relates to that many people either. That's why I think he's not like.
I think that
there's not much to him.
Definitely has a bet. I think he has a good chance of beating Biden than, you know.
I mean, I think he has a better chance than pretty much all of them. I agree with that, with better, but not likely. No.
Like, people.
I think the most likely scenario is Biden wins re-election, no matter who he runs against.
See, look at this. If DeSantis were to run against Biden, who are the MAGA people voting for?
Any Republican. That doesn't matter. Like, literally any. Like, Liz Cheney could run against Biden. Most of them probably vote for her.
Yes, thank you. So, yes, you're right. So, they're going to vote Republican. So then, well, I don't know. Yeah, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they wouldn't be a lot, but that would be like the default assumption.
Okay, so let's say he wins the primary. Say DeSantis wins the primary, okay? And then he goes into the general election.
Yeah.
He's facing Biden. A lot of people that are moderately Democrat did not like Trump because of a lot of things that he said, his ego, his this, his that. DeSantis doesn't really have that. You see what I mean? And so not only will he get the Republican poll, but he can also grab those moderates. Obviously, I know he's not going to get anyone on the left. No one.
The Democrats could just go through his record and be like, look at how extreme this guy is.
They
like,
could,
it's not really going to be like an actual like message on that, you know?
But I don't know.
And it's
people
like, you can say, oh, like,
the way he handled COVID.
Point at the economy, point at inflation, but it's like they did that, and it was really mixed results. Because, like, you can only really point at a problem without giving them a solution for so long, and that's really what he would be doing in terms of those issues. Everything else, it's like, okay, you have all these like culture war issues that most people are split on.
Yeah, I think he needs to start
he's not gonna he's not like a unifying type figure. Like, are there going to be Democrats who disaffect and vote for the Republican? I mean, probably happens every election. There are going to be some people who are like, I thought I liked this guy, but
neither is Biden. No one's going to be a unifier. And I don't think anyone they can look at.
He's a lot more of a unifier than pretty much.
I don't know. Like, I don't think there's anyone that could really unify the
I'm not
country at
saying
the
like
current
perfect
moment.
kumbaya, but I'm saying
No,
like
I'm not saying perfect kumbaya
to get.
either. I'm just saying I don't think there's anyone that's even close to just making it like okay.
It's not making it okay. I'm saying it's enough to win an election. Like Biden got a pretty decent amount of Republican voters because of Trump. Now, with those are the people that would go for DeSantis,
Yeah.
or Republicans who voted for Biden.
Well, I think people they want policy,
And
but
even among those people, there probably is some percentage, probably not significant, but some that would say, hey, maybe DeSantis is still too far. But for the most part, I mean, yeah, you're really looking at like the moderate Republicans who voted for Biden.
Yeah, well, if you want to look at it this way, I mean, we need to bring the tensions down. And did you know 67% of Americans actually want a third party? So if we were to run a
Really, I've
third
never heard this one
party,
before.
you heard this one before. Oh, gee, I wonder where you heard it from. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just a little nut. But anyway, there's a party called the Forward Party, and people wanted to bring the tensions down, not up, and that ranked choice voting, and that's it.
My choice voting, the party.
It's unfortunate because I don't know if the Forward Party is even gonna do anything for the presidential run. They don't even have any. They don't have any policies. It's unfortunate. Hope to have Yang on the show one day. Love to talk to him about it because man, it's really upsetting. It's like
It can be
wow.
like the 50th person to tell him his party has no policy.
Yeah, we could be the 51st.
51st.
Yeah, what a shame. But I mean, look, whatever happens with Trump and DeSantis, he's being pushed by Fox, DeSantis. And as we talk about Fox, this is a good time to get into our next, yes, kind of our next topic, but still on the same topic, kind of. Trump, or Tucker, I gotta say, he was, quote unquote, enraged at a private text revealed in court case. So he was on a radio show the other day, and he said this. This is a quote, and I think this is in the text, and those were all grabbed illegitimately. In my opinion, in this court case, which I guess I'm not allowed to talk about, but I'm enraged that my private texts were pulled. He said that on an interview on WABC radio. Then he says, and then this is what it says in a text message. Okay, we are very close. No. We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. And he said this. It's funny, the date he said this was January 4th, 2021. Does he know?
He might have known. He didn't know clearly.
Yeah. So, so then this is what he responded with, okay, when he was saying how he wished that those text messages didn't leak. He said, "Oh, let's see. I spent 4 years defending his policies, and I'm going to defend them again tonight. And actually, I'm pretty straightforward, and I love Trump. Like, as a person, I think Trump is funny and insightful. Now, I don't care, you like Tucker, you like Trump, but I gotta be honest with you, it smells like a whole lot of bullshit. I mean, he just wants to be in good waters with Trump. That's really all it sounds here.
There's the public position and the private position.
Yeah, because this is not the first text message, don't forget. There's another text message we talked about. I think we talked about the last time, actually, right?
Yeah.
So,
it's all part of the same case, basically.
Yeah. So, it's all part of the same case, but he's trying to turn around and be like, no, I actually like him.
Along the lines, like, he's like a demonic force.
Who?
Tucker, that's what I said, I believe.
Well, I heard that, what was it? Is his name Rupert Murdoch?
Murdoch.
That's right. That's the owner, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I heard something where Tucker and Hannity have so much pull within the company that Murdoch can't really do anything. What is he gonna do? Take Tucker off the air? You take Tucker off the air, what are you doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's too big. So I mean, listen, whatever happens there, but
Well, I think also too. I mean, they're all like they're just pandering to their base pretty much.
Well, yeah, that's what it is. But and if you talk to certain people say, "Oh no, but Fox News is becoming Democrat," and then they go to Newsmax or One America's Voice.
Yeah, one of those people I think are
Or
just kind of.
OAN or it's kind of crazy. It's like you see Fox News Democrat. Where do you? I could watch a Tucker segment. I could watch a Hannity segment. I could watch an Ingram segment. I could watch Jesse Waters. I could watch The Five. I could watch any show you give me. Levin. You know, any of these shows. I could tell you, it doesn't come off as a Democrat show at all. Like at all. Like there is no, and I've watched recent episodes, like, you know, and it's definitely not democratic. I don't know if they understand what they mean by that, because
they were told that it's becoming Democrat because they aren't, you know, pro-Trump enough.
Yeah,
essentially.
That's basically it.
I mean, I guess they're kind of right because, you know, secretly they all fucking hate him.
Yeah, and also they support DeSantis. So that's really what
not
the
really
Fox
the
News...
hosts though that are at least explicitly all in on DeSantis, like the big time ones, like Ingram, Hannity, Hot Tucker. It's more like the daytime stuff, like Caputo, like those types.
Yeah.
But they haven't really said too much, but I'm sure they all would rather DeSantis for kind of, I guess, for reasons that you were saying. They feel like he's more appealing to normies.
That's what I'm saying. I think he's more appealing
subtle
to people.
I don't think he is, but I think that the conventional wisdom would be, oh yeah, like, you know, he's more put together.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's how I think he could grab moderates. I think he could grab a lot of people. I think also another thing that you know, I think one of the last things I want to talk about on this topic is how DeSantis is more geared to get the younger vote. You know what I mean?
Rather, I don't think so at all.
No. Like, I mean, listen here. I know what you're thinking, but I'm saying he could grab the young vote rather than Trump, I would say. And I say that because of the people
I think it's
that...
like the same, honestly.
It could be, but
I think Trump might honestly do better with the young than
DeSantis. I'm going off of people that I've interviewed. I'm going off of, you know...
Well, okay, I guess.
It's like, that's what I'm going off of here.
At the same time...
It's not like I'm just popping it out of my ass right now, you know what I mean? Like...
Okay, but I get that you've interviewed a lot of young people who are, like, conservative, and they probably like DeSantis more. But, I don't know, I feel like going back to people who are not super already, like, right-wing, if you're a young person and you're not, like, you know, let's say, like, you're not far right, you're not far left, you're not even, like, a Democrat, and you don't, like, maybe let's say you don't have, like, a label, you know, and you're open to voting for, like, a right-winger. I think Trump does better with those people than DeSantis.
You think so? No, especially after January 6th, you sure?
I don't know, because it's like...
I
feel like, okay, here's my thing. If you would vote for DeSantis as a young person, you absolutely would vote for Trump. There's no fucking way you wouldn't, right?
No, of course. I'm not... Yeah.
I don't... Like... I just think Trump's more, like... Because he really... The thing is that he activated, like, some weird percentage of people, at least, you know, in 2016, of people, and even in 2022, actually, like, there are a lot of people who just don't vote, but they came out on election day that year and voted for him, you know? I don't think DeSantis has that. I think he kind of just exists in, like, the political world. I don't think there's going to be people who just vote for him just because.
I'm not saying that he has a movement behind him. I don't want to make it sound like that. I'm not saying he has a movement behind him because, like, and you look in 2016, Trump had a movement behind him. You look, you know, and it's like, I'm not saying he has a movement. I don't want to come off that way. But
how's he going to do better if he doesn't have a movement?
But I don't think... Well, Biden didn't have a movement. He had no movement.
He definitely had a movement.
I don't know if he had a movement.
He had a movement of people who hated Trump.
Well, yeah, but there you go. But do you think those people also, like, hate DeSantis as much?
Good amount of them would
not
like him.
Like, obviously you got to get rid
Again,
of.
I'm talking about to win. I'm not talking about like end
Okay.
all be all. Like I'm saying to win the election. Yeah, I think. And he's also the incumbent. Like he can just like people just know he's the president. There's like a huge incumbency bias. And, like the fact Trump didn't win is pretty embarrassing, honestly, in 2020.
But yeah,
Like
he just had a
people,
really bad year, man. I mean, campaign and
like a lot of
all.
people just aren't gonna vote that voted in 2020, and that's probably gonna help Biden more because, or maybe it won't, but it depends. Like, because it usually helps Republicans more actually, but at the same time, it's like, is there gonna be like people are probably gonna be content and like, okay, this guy was already president, so unless things get really really bad again, like they did in 2020 with COVID.
Well, don't forget, there's an also. You could think of it this way: if Biden were to run again, it could also come up. Well, what if he dies in office? What if he passes away in office?
I mean, that scenario is like that's not like a likely scenario, but
of
that's the
course,
only real where things open up more.
but it opens up. And I'm not saying that he does now, but I'm saying that the conversation could be brought up in the in the upcoming election. And when people see that, they're gonna get really they're gonna be shitting their pants because they realize the next person in line is
I don't
Kamala
think
Harris.
that matters at all.
And
I don't think
people want Kamala as president. I mean, I think a
most
lot of
people voting
people
don't care. That's like,
I
the
don't
fact
know,
that
man.
Trump and Biden are like the last two presidents are the two oldest presidents concurrently. You know what I mean?
But
After we
Biden
had like a fairly young president.
but Biden is showing his age more than
Both
Trump
of them
did.
are. Both of them
Trump
are.
is showing his age now. That's why I'm saying
Even in
DeSantis is more
2020 he was.
electable. Okay, yeah, and
But
that's why I say DeSantis is more electable. But if you have this young guy, most likely, unless he gets shot in the head during a parade, the guy's not dying. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things where Biden could be like, all right, well, he passed away on his third year, second term.
But we don't live in that. I don't think we live in an era where people care about that anymore. Like I think most
I
people
don't
recognize like
know.
most people
Listen.
Trump literally almost died, and he didn't because he has the
He
best
wasn't
healthcare in the
gonna.
world.
I'll tell you, he wasn't gonna.
If Trump was like an average Joe Schmo and he got COVID, he would have died like at that time.
Probably, because
Like
and
the president said so much shit. Like
they have the best. They have the
if
best
Biden's
healthcare.
running for president, there's a really small chance he dies within the 4 year.
Yeah.
And I mean, you couldn't like he's already the president too, so it's like people already know what to expect. Like you can't really invoke that fear. If he was like not already the incumbent, then maybe. But even then, it's like Bernie when he ran in the primary, he had a heart attack, and he started doing better in the fucking like primary.
Hey, look,
And he didn't lose because he had a heart attack. He lost because there was like a giant campaign to paint him as unelectable, and it worked.
Hey, look,
And
Fetterman had a stroke and he won. So
yeah,
I guess
Fetterman had a stroke and he won.
But also, you have to take into account here that Dr. Oz is a terrible candidate. That's also another thing to take into account. So I mean, look, anything could happen, but I mean, that's what I'm gonna say there.
Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, we've been talking about that for a while.
Yeah, it definitely has been a while. So I definitely want to get into the next topic, which I think you can introduce us to that.
Yeah, fun. So in Los Angeles, there's a giant worker strike among school workers, not teachers necessarily. Teachers are involved too. It's like people who are like janitors, people who do work in the food service at schools. They don't really get that much money. The average is about 25,000 a year. There's people who work in these services that make below the poverty line, and even that median wage like is below the poverty line if you're in a household of two people. So it's not really the most ideal working situation. So they're exercising their right to protest. It's being done by like the union for this school district. It's the district in question is the Los Angeles United. Hold on, get that full acronym up.
LAUSD.
Yeah, well, I want to see. Los Angeles Unified School District.
There you go.
I could have just said that. But yeah, so they are protesting. I think it's pretty. I support their right to protest, of course. And right now, though, I think today is the first day that classes were called off as a result of it. Meaning that 420,000 students, because this is the second largest school district in the entire country. So 420,000 students not in class today, or they didn't have class today because of these strikes. And something to note is that in August last year, the budget for this district increased by $1.4 billion to fund various things for them. But the pay increases, which they were trying to negotiate for in this process, weren't really on the table for them.
Mm-hmm.
And they lost. I believe that what sparked it was the fact that they had a contract in 2020 that they were fine with that ran out. So now they want a new contract that will meet their demands. And of course they're going to go back and forth on it in a couple days. So it's pretty interesting to see it play out. I feel like we talked about in the previous episode in regards to right to work in Michigan, we talked about how unions were kind of gutted in this country for the past 40 years, and they've been kind of making a comeback in the past about 2 or 3 years as a result of COVID and various things. So, but I feel like the one type of union that's been pretty persistent have been state unions, whether that's like teacher unions. Obviously, police unions are kind of a contentious topic. Sanitation, fire department. They've been pretty stable. Like if you work for the state, it's kind of looked at as a good thing, largely because their unions are pretty solid. And oftentimes you will hear about teacher strikes, though none to this size, definitely. This is definitely the biggest one in a while. And I think the last time they had a strike of this size in the past couple of years, it kind of sparked like a domino effect across the country of other school districts doing these similar protests. So I might do the same here, Is there anything you'd like to say on that?
I mean, nothing really, other than the fact that, I mean, listen, protesting is probably one of the most patriotic things you can do. And if you can do it, I mean, and you're gonna go out there so you can get a higher wage, and if you're being paid 25,000 a year, I mean, if you're not protesting, you should just quit. Find a job elsewhere. You could probably make more money. It's kind of crazy to say, but that's most likely true. Uh, like it's insane that you could hire someone like I'm looking here. It says bus drivers making 25,000 a year. How can you be a bus driver and make 25,000 a year? How do you pay bills? And where is this, Los Angeles? How do you live? These are the people. These are the homeless people you see in the tents. The bus drivers, the cafeteria workers. There's no way unless they just live. They just like pool money together, and they live with either someone else or a few other people, or they still live with their family, because there's no way you can make it out on your own. $25,000. I don't even know if you could live on that in any other state in the country. I mean, maybe, but Los Angeles?
Yeah, I'm sure there's poor states you can live in on that, but yeah,
But
and that's
Los
kind of the
Angeles?
issue too with a
Man.
lot of these work-related, labor-related issues is people will tell you, oh, get off government assistance, just work your way up and all this stuff. But the reality is, I mean, a lot of people on government assistance work. And even more people, I mean, just barely are struggling because it's like, I mean, they make too much to really get that government assistance that we have. But then it's like, if they stop working, then they'll get even less. So it's a tough spot for a lot of people. Or sometimes it's worth it to not work, because if you start working, then you're making less money effectively because of how dumb the limits on the means testing can be. And that's another thing with me personally. I'm not a big means testing fan. Actually, something that happened that we didn't get to talk about, we can incorporate here in Minnesota, which is a funny state.
Soda.
But their governor just signed a bill to make it that everyone, regardless of your income, has every child has free lunches at their school.
Oh,
I'm assuming was
I think I heard
already. I
about
mean,
this. Was this
yeah,
the Lunchables thing?
I don't know the exact kinds of lunches.
Was it
But
breakfast and lunch?
I don't know if it's breakfast, but it's definitely lunch. They definitely are guaranteed at least their lunches.
We'll
And
definitely
that's
look into this by the next show. But I mean, I think there was something on that. I was hearing something about that. It was breakfast and lunch, and then something else with Lunchables. So like that was what I saw. I saw the article like, oh man, a few days ago. So I'd have to come back to that one for me.
I mean, regardless though, my point being is that they cut out the bureaucracy and the means testing, because there are parents who work, and maybe they make a little bit too much for it, but they could still get the help. And there's nothing really wrong with that. And they can't really guarantee that their kid has lunch, because it's like maybe they're not making enough. Maybe some emergency happens. Most people work paycheck to paycheck. If something unexpected happens, what if their kid doesn't have lunch for the month?
Yeah.
So definitely, like, for a lot of basic things that can help people like that, I definitely support making it kind of universal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's my piece on that. And I think this is our final story of the day. Another thing from me. In Nebraska and all across the country, I think, if you follow politics, you probably know about this. So, like, a lot of Republican states are passing bills to limit access to trans health care. They want to restrict when you can transition, if you can at all. They want to, if you can go into the bathroom, play on the sports teams. It's like this whole thing. So it's a culture war distraction. I think at best it's a culture war distraction. At worst, it's not really the best kind. It's something that you might call genocide, maybe. But in Nebraska, they're one of these states. They're Republican led. They fall for this whole idea of, oh yeah, we need to get rid of this stuff, and it's indoctrinating our children. So they have a bill that they want to pass through. They have two bills, I believe. One that targets transitioning, like kids transitioning at all, and another bill that targets if you can go into their preferred bathroom, locker room, sports teams, etc. But there is a state senator, Michaela Kavanaugh, who started filibustering not only these two bills, but every bill in the legislative session, basically like in protest of these types of legislation in the state. So basically, she's trying to make sure that as little bills get passed in this legislative session as possible, in order to prevent these two bills from passing in. And as a result, I mean, she's gotten some more support from other Democrats in the state, and it's also, like we were talking about it, so it's kind of national news now, which I think is a very good thing because, a lot of times, and abortion's like this too now, where since Roe v. Wade's overturned, a lot of these red states are starting to like go all hog wild with the abortion bans and all this stuff. And people just assume, I mean, okay, like, states' rights, so you just have to let the states do what they want. And it kind of creates a bad scenario for people who live in these states who, if you're like a woman who needs an abortion for whatever reason, or sometimes it's a child who needs an abortion if you're raped or something crazy happens, or if you're a transgender person. And it creates a scenario where it's like, okay, well, if you can't go to these blue states, if they're not accessible, and sometimes they are, but there's like weird stuff that these states try to do to, like with the abortion example, there's doctors who feel like, okay, well, I can't really do this procedure on you. They might sue me because you're from this state, and they're trying to track people who are, fall under these categories. So it's sometimes just going to a blue state really isn't a sustainable option. So it's good that there are elected officials in red states who are willing to, do the work to protect these communities. And you have anything to add to that? Or?
Really nothing much. I would just, yeah. I mean, look, the one thing I do say though is that this is probably the most I ever heard of Nebraska in the news. You know what I mean? Like, what's next? South Dakota? Like, north or south? I mean,
it's good. I mean, because usually things that happen there, it's like, oh, like, whatever. They're just like a random mindset is just a random hick state, but no, interesting things happen there. Interesting happen everywhere.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't really have anything else to add. I don't know if you have anything else.
No, I mean, again, like, just shine some light on it. I think it's really important work that's being done, and I hope that other states in similar positions follow through, and we kind of move past this because, in my opinion, I think all this like anti-abortion, anti-trans stuff is pretty cringe.
All right, and I think that's gonna pull wraps for today. So thank you for tuning in this Wednesday. And we'll be back again on Friday with the latest news, and we'll be here to talk about it as usual. So thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. Have a great day, and we'll see you later.
All right.
Peace.